Okay, so case number 2018-19/02 is approved. Next item, 3.3, consideration of a religious exemption, case number 2018-19/03. What is the board's pleasure?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion has been made and second. Do we have any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Madam Clerk.
Ms. Allen?
Yes.
Ms. Atkinson?
Yes.
Mrs. Hines?
Yes.
Mr. Lamb?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Parent?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Thank you. Next item is 3.4, consideration of a religious exemption, case number 2018-19/04. What is the board's pleasure?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. Do we have any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Madam Clerk.
Ms. Allen?
Yes.
Ms. Atkinson?
Yes.
Mrs. Hines?
Yes.
Mr. Lamb?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Parent?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Thank you. The next item is 3.5, consideration of a religious exemption, case number 2018-19/05. What is the board's pleasure?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. Board members, any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Madam Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Ms. Allen?
Yes.
Ms. Atkinson?
Yes.
Mrs. Hines?
Yes.
Mr. Lamb?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Parent?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Thank you. All right. The next item is 3.6, consideration of the minutes June 14th, 2018, and June 21st, 2018. Board,
Move for approval.
Second.
motion's been made and second. Do we have any discussion regarding the minutes? Hear no discussion. Madam Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Ms. Allen?
Yes.
Ms. Atkinson?
Yes.
Mrs. Hines?
Yes.
Mr. Lamb?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Parent?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Thank you. This is discussion. You have a copy of the 2019 school board meetings. You've had an opportunity, we're not going to vote on this tonight, but it's only for discussion. You have a draft copy of the minutes, of the meetings. We do want to include 2 schools for next year. I would hope that the board would want to include having meetings in 2 schools. I've not come up with those schools, but if you have some recommendations, we've been to Hodges Manor. We've been to Person High,
Parkview.
Parkview, Craddock. So,
And Norcom.
Yes. Yes. That was one
we've
of
only
the
been
first
to
ones.
4.
Norcom was one of the first ones we went to.
Right.
I thought it was Churchland High School.
No.
Church High School was the one we did the joint one.
Probably the year before.
Year before. That was the.
Yeah, it was Churchland Middle we went for the joint meeting. But
We've been to Churchland High School because we talked about the
That's a
lights
good-
in the auditorium, how
Just wasn't last year.
Right, because we've done it 2 years in a row. Why don't we look at the schools, and then we'll make a recommendation to the board.
Okay.
And if you have some recommendations, email me, okay? But I hope that we want to continue to do that. I think it builds a good relationship. All right, the next item is a roll call vote, and it's consideration of certain school board policies. We've all had fun reading those policies. Do any of you have any? I had one, but that was cleared up before I got here, so. Ms. Williams? Oh,
I had a question about the rental policy as far as requiring security for all events,
yeah.
because some events are so small. Oh, is it certain criteria we need to?
Well, where it stemmed from was the incident that happened at Craddock. So the thought process both as Reverend Fleming and I had was, we made that organization have to have security. So from a safety perspective, we figured we can't cherry pick who has security and who doesn't have security, because then you get into that funny line of, well, they had to have security, why didn't they have to have security? So we blanketed and make everybody have to have security.
No matter how small the meeting? I mean, because we do have like the Norcom Alumni Association that meets.
No,
at-
public events, like
Oh.
where public people are, like if we're
Oh,
all just,
like a,
yeah.
where the
it's more
public is
so-
invited.
Yes.
Okay.
That was the thought
Not a
process
regular,
behind it.
just a regular. Oh.
Hold on.
Well, I think,
Yeah.
and the reason I think Dr. Bracy required that particular group to have security was because of the big fight.
Right, there were parents there fighting, just like, you know, that can happen with anybody, especially if it's somebody, we're not saying a Portsmouth Public School sanctioned event, because don't we already have security when we're having something?
The games and.
The games, yes.
The games.
Okay, so
But they
I
don't go
know,
through this, they don't
They don't go through the rental.
They don't go
They
through
want to
the
go,
zone.
if they want to
right,
rent
but
it.
if someone's renting out the school,
And
then,
the public is invited.
if they're renting out the school where people are gonna be coming into the school, public-wise, that's the purpose of that. So we didn't want to cherry pick. This group is gonna be able to have security and somebody didn't, because somebody's gonna want to understand, well, you did it for them, you didn't do it for us. And bless you.
So with that, just so, because I get the calls, those that we have to, that send the letters in to waive fees. And for those groups that are 501c3, we have sororities and fraternities that utilize the facilities for their meetings, other small groups. And with that, we only require them to cover custodial costs. We waive the facility fees. So if going forward, this happens and I waive the facility fees, they still have to pay custodial, but now they will have to pay security fees. And with that, the way it's written, like you said, they'll have to provide the documentation to us that they have either the sheriff's department or the police department. So if anybody says waive it, I'll waive it, but that can't be waived. So I just want to make sure that everybody's clear on that.
I guess for an example, if I'm requesting a meeting and there are like 20 of us, and we're using the
There's a difference
school.
between meeting and an event.
I know that. So that's what I'm trying to do. You're requesting a meeting of a group of people, which is not a public event. It's just, I want to use your library for a meeting. And there are 20 of us there. So in that case, you would not have security. Or are you talking, that's not a public meeting, it's sorority, or it's just somebody, church group, or somebody wants to meet there?
We're saying an event, what we said was an event where
Any
we're
event.
inviting the public to come in. There needs to be security there. So, I mean, if you're just having a meeting and you're a sorority, it's all of y'all together, you all know each other, that's a sorority meeting. It's not the same of, they're having a sorority meeting and inviting 50 other people in, that's not part of that sorority to make it a public
That's what I
event.
wanted to understand. But, Mr. Lamb.
Well, and I didn't mean to cut you
Oh,
off.
that's okay.
Lakeisha's
Oh,
next.
Lakeisha, I'm sorry, I didn't see your
Oh, you
hand.
can go ahead, Fred.
My
wills is still.
Your
Will
role is,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, and I've read these a while ago, so bear with me if my question is reflected already in an answer somewhere in there. But so what about, say, with and I get what you're saying and I understand what you're saying. I guess it just gets crazy with wording and so forth with things. What about, say, a PTA event where it's an actual event sponsored by the PTA that the public is coming to? Then that PTA chapter or the citywide PTA, would they then have to hire security for that event?
Discuss that. To me, the premise behind the whole policy where if we are inviting the public inside of the school, which is not a school sanctioned event, that they have security. Now, of course, this is a proposed policy, but, you know, our thought process was, especially from that event moving
Yeah.
forward, we want to make sure that, as all of us do, that things are done in a safe manner. So that was a policy that we proposed.
Yeah, and I applaud what you're trying to do, you know, definitely with that. Where it gets all crazy and sticky now is, you know, defining public, because I mean really in essence, even us, Is a
Do
public,
the PTAs rent the school when they have an event? Are they renting the school?
are they running the school?
Renting.
No,
They never have.
no, they
If
haven't.
it's in conjunction with the school, but they can use it for other activities.
Which they do.
Right, which they do, and they do send those forms in.
Like I remember a few years ago at Brighton, it was like they had a health, it was a health event. It was at night, and they had different organizations come in, and it was at 7 at night, and the
Right.
public came in
Right.
and whatnot.
Ms. Atkinson and then Ms. Williams.
Okay. So I guess and like I said, I was thinking the same thing with that was considered an event where it would require security because like he's saying, if you're having a book fair outside of the school, you know, off school hours, and you're an outside organization hosting a book fair, should you have to come out of the pocket with security? You know, so that's my concern with things like, with events like that, and then not just restricted to the Portsmouth Police Department or Sheriff's Department, because that's another fee that these organizations are gonna have to pay. They should be able to hire a licensed and bonded outside security agency. And then we're also blanketing in the literature into this as well, where we're restricting everyone else except the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts. And I just want a clear definition of what a patriotic youth society is.
The verbiage from the community's use of school facilities, the part that we added in our discussion for the policy committee is the portion in blue. And the rationale for Portsmouth Police or Portsmouth Sheriff's Office was more so that we wanted to have someone there with arresting authority if need be. We did not discuss whether or not it was a bonded or licensed company along those lines. And I'm not opposed to us, you know, developing a list for people to choose from companies that are licensed and bonded, if that's the will of the board. Reverend Fleming and I both felt Portsmouth Sheriff's Office and the police department were the two that we went with because they have the arresting authority if need be. And a lot of times, sometimes the mere presence of someone in that official uniform is enough of a deterrent.
Ms. Williams?
And
Oh,
to
you're
follow
not
up,
through, I'm
So are
sorry.
we still not allowing the PTA to pass out literature in the school?
Oh, that's a whole nother,
Well, because we combine literature right here. It says, or the distribution of literature on school property or at school functions. So this is like a blanket statement right here. And it's just saying permit such use or such distribution by these organizations.
No.
and again, this was from already here literature's portion, so we just left that as is. The part in the blue is the part that we proposed to enter into.
You're adding that.
Do we have the original? Because I don't think this was the original.
I thought this was the original other than,
The portion in blue.
Portion in blue
yeah.
Yeah,
and the red stripe.
Dr. Wynn, do we have Pete's Drawer?
Yeah, as far as I know.
I started swaying.
I want to be there. Go ahead. Oh.
With our administrative lead on the policy that there is some concerns about consistency with this proposed policy before you tonight and our materials distribution policy. And I made a recommendation that it go back to the committee for review.
So the
Okay.
recommendation is to go back to the
That's been my suggestion to the administrative team because there is some inconsistency between the current materials distribution policy and the proposed policy before you tonight.
But we do have Pete's Drawer?
We do.
We do.
But if you recall from last year,
Yes.
there was not clear resolution on how to handle.
Right, I remember that.
We
I
stopped
do
it.
remember
And
that.
so it has been my recommendation to the administrative team to review that policy again. And when this proposed policy about facility rental came up, I again made a recommendation because there is some inconsistency.
You did pull the policy she's referring to about the peace jar and all the
We
notification.
didn't have that.
Yeah, that's not in here. Yeah, we took that. But I guess that will have to take we have to take that in consideration because the language has to match. You know, we're saying that about the literature on school property or functions.
Right.
Yeah.
Ms. Williams?
I,
And then Mr. Lamb?
yeah, I think that
Right.
I like the idea of the consistency, but I think that we get into requiring groups that probably don't need security, that they have to have them, because I'm thinking about a group that I'm in, like the Lynx, and we have done the school recital at John Tyler for the last 4 or 5 years. It's after school, but we go in, we pay to teach the children piano lessons. And then we invite the families in for the recital. And that is inviting the public in. So, you know, I would hate for us to have to pay for security, and we're giving these services, you know, to the children. So I'm trying to figure out what could we.
Because to piggyback off of what you're saying, then do we stop having the organization that's paying for security? Do we continue to make them pay for security?
Well, we don't pay for security. I mean, it's like 4 o'clock.
No,
right
I
after
mean, no,
school.
not you. The organization that's currently paying for security when they use our schools, which was the whole premise of the reason for us to put the policy in place, because we
Well,
have
there
one
are certain,
organization.
you know, certain organizations that they have these sports events, things like that, that you invite. You know, you're inviting a different clientele of people. Now, those little elementary schools, the parents, grandparents are there, happy to see them play the game. So, I guess my question is, was there an issue with the policy except for that one incident that occurred last year?
No, that was, and I wasn't in that meeting that Dr. Camarda had with Ms. Allen and Reverend Fleming, but as Ms. Allen is referring to, we did ask that group to pay for security as a result of the video.
Of the video and the fight.
Right.
But other than that, you know, that there's a certain, I've always thought that if it's a certain amount of people that you expect, then you have to have security anyway,
Right.
when you invite the public.
Right.
So, you know, I don't want to do anything to discourage
Absolutely not.
groups that really help our school, and we know they have a good track record of not having any problems, require them to have security if you do a blanket one. So, you know, I do recommend that maybe the committee look at it again, and I don't know if we've done this, check with some other school divisions to see how they handle, you know, security or something
I
like that.
have no problem doing that at all. I think, like I said, the premise of it was there was an
Being
incident,
consistent.
and we want to be safe, consistent, and not
Oh,
to a
yeah.
point where we're cherry picking. Well, this organization now has to pay and this one doesn't, because then that makes us
Right.
in a whole
Yeah.
nother set of circumstances as
Exactly.
well.
Right.
Yeah.
So, what I will take back to Reverend Fleming and Dr. Camardi is, do we want to look at it? What is the board's pleasure of what you want us to look at? Whether or not it's over a certain number, because the same clientele that may come out to a piano recital may still come out to a football game, and it's just they get maybe a little bit more heated during those or not. I mean, I hope they know I slapping nobody playing Beethoven.
Well, to me, anyway, I feel like this. Unless there was a problem, the only reason Dr. Bracy required that because they had the big fight.
Absolutely, and I was
So
in firm
whatever they
agreement with
were
that.
doing in the past, if it was working, you know, leave it up to the superintendent's discretion. To, you know, whatever, I don't know what the whole ramifications of all the policy was when they were required it for a certain number. I don't know all of that. But to change it where everyone would have to, if you invite the public in, I think might be a little bit too restrictive. And if maybe the committee could just look at leaving it to the discretion, because that incident came up because of the
Right.
fight, and he had to take some action.
Right. Are
Okay.
you finished, Ms. Williams?
Yeah.
Mr. Lamb?
Yeah,
And then Dr. Whitaker.
I think Ms. Williams beat me to the punch a little bit here with regards to, I was going to ask, as far back as I can remember, that this was a one-time incident. Like, I don't remember any other incidences that has occurred. If they have, it's never risen to this, this level. I think it is a wise option to take it back to the committee, let the committee look through this, and then present it back to the board again for review. As well, I think even allowing the superintendent the option, because I agree with Ms. Williams. I understand we're going as far as policy and things, but yet there are many groups. I just,
Right.
I think maybe we need to leave it with the option of the superintendent. In case something like this happens again, you narrow it down. You narrow it with individual groups, as opposed to a blanket. Because I can see where this could be a heartache or a grief, hardship with some.
Okay. Dr. Whitaker.
I wanted to go back to Ms. Atkinson's question. Are we going to revisit the distribution of material by Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and patriotic societies? Because that's arbitrary.
Okay. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, they need to.
Because I looked at the list of patriotic
a lot.
societies. Just,
So many.
it's just arbitrary, who's considered and who's not.
Yeah, we need to revisit that.
We just need to send this back to the committee and take a look at it. The thing about it is that we're living in a different world. And I know that, probably most churches employ security because they're going to attack churches and they're going to attack schools and other public places. We made it a policy that if you have any event, regardless of the number of people, that we would have a security person, which then we don't charge, but I had to put that in our budget because even Dr. Tracy and I talked about it this afternoon. If you come up with a number arbitrarily, say 50, if you have 50 or more, then you would need security. But then driving here, I'm thinking about that, and I said, well, what about if it's 50 or less, and like the cheerleaders go out and they cheer, and somebody comes in and does harm to them. This is not an easy thing because, one, you have a custodian that's still in the building because they're cleaning the building. They have the code to, when they leave, they've got to lock the building. So the custodial staff, they've got to know when this group that's coming in using our building, when they're going to leave. Because they can't leave until the group leaves. And then you got to worry about when they finish their jobs at a certain time, then we may have to pay overtime. So somebody's got to be paid. Either the custodial staff has to sit there and wait until the event's over, because a lot of times if you have large events, they can't start cleaning until everybody leaves unless they're in a different part of the building and they've cleaned that and then they clean that. I think that if you look at a number, I don't want to penalize anybody, but I think what the board is trying to say, we want to protect the people that use our facilities because you never know what's going to happen in this day and time. Ms. Allen.
Well, when you talk about the custodian, do the organizations pay for the custodian or are we paying for the custodian?
They
The
pay for the,
organization, they have to pay.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Oh, well, you just confused me when you
To
said
clean
are we
up.
paying overtime?
Well, we've
and
got
that,
them in there. We've got them in there, but they have to, whatever.
We pay for that.
Yeah, we pay
For
for
a
that.
certain hour, if they go over, we have to pay.
Yeah.
The organization pays.
Is that right, Mr. Ziegler?
Yes, the organization pays a flat hourly fee for
Right.
for custodians.
Right.
So we shouldn't be paying any overtime for a custodian.
The hourly fee is based on the average overtime rate for a custodian, because normally when they work events, it puts them into an overtime status, because they work their 40 hours for us, and then if the event goes over, then they need to stay those hours, or if the event's on a Saturday, that's
Yeah.
automatically overtime hours. So the hourly rate that they pay for the custodian is based on
reflective of
that.
overtime.
But technically, they pay us, and we add the money, the hours, to the custodian's paycheck.
But the organization is still paying.
Right.
Yes.
Right, the organization doesn't pay them direct, the custodian.
Right, it comes-
Right,
Yeah.
it comes to the schools, Ms. Atkinson.
And Mr. Ziegler, just follow up on the custodian thing, did we adjust it to fit? Because I know initially we were at like $60 an hour per custodian, so did we fix that?
Yes, I think the hourly rate right now is, I'm going from memory, I think it's $31 an hour.
Occupations says 31.
And,
Sally? I'm sorry, Ms. Atkinson.
And if it is the board consensus, being that a lot of these policies have to be in, is there a way that we can vote on the others and move this one under advisement? And also with the literature portion, if we can come up with some kind of agreement, because the first day of school is about to start, and that's when a lot of literature goes out. So I wouldn't want to restrict anyone if we are going to change that.
Well, if it goes back to the committee, the policy that's in place is the policy that we have to go with, because the board has not taken action on this new policy. So whatever policy we are under, that's what we're going to start with in September.
And again,
That's my understanding.
And with that one, we've been following the guidelines of what we talked about before last year with the peach jar, that we're not just distributing, you have to go through peach jar. But as written, those organizations are allowed to do it.
And
Yes,
to
ma'am.
follow up, I have an issue with, again, some organizations, including our own PTA, not being able to distribute literature in the schools.
Well, I thought
It's just not making sense.
You said
I
they're
thought
not
we-
able?
They're not able to per our policy.
Right.
Yeah, that was from last year's
That was
policy. That's
from
not
last
nothing
year.
that we started new
Right,
on
no,
this one.
that was.
We are only on the one in the blue for us.
I thought we got that straight, that the PTA,
No.
No.
we did not get that straight. So the PTA cannot go through Peach Jar?
Per our policy.
Not through peach jar?
They can go through peach jar.
I thought they could.
But that's what I'm saying, it's inconsistency, because per our policy, they can't. It just says those two organizations, and it says designated youth, patriotic youth organizations.
Well, then we have to insert the
That's
parent
not,
teachers.
it's another policy that they were saying that's not consistent with our policy, that we need to match up.
Peach jar. The requirements that we fell under with peach jar. That's how that came about when we had the discussion about were we going to continue it. That's how that came about. I remember Mrs. Williams brought up, hey, if we don't have something, then anybody can come in
And put it in it.
and put anything out. So that's what the conversation came from a few months ago when we had that discussion.
Right.
So, but I know before we come back with something on this policy, we need to find out and figure out what we're going to do with the other policy, because you got the same language
Yeah.
intertwined.
Well, who was the administrator of Peach Jar? You. So everything comes from you, and you look at all of the information, and then you decide which is appropriate and what is not appropriate?
So I approve flyers on Peach Jar for division level in schools based upon the current school board policy. There are several inconsistencies, which I have shared multiple times with the administrative team, and I do believe warrant further review.
But the PTA is not one of them.
Well, there's inconsistency with the PTA. So Mr. Lamb and Ms. Atkinson are accurate.
Because
Due to the policy, yes.
we
Okay, I don't know whose hand went up, yours and then Ms. Williams. Yes, Mr. Lamb.
Because again, if I remember correctly, last spring, when we were looking at this peach jar, that was a whole discussion
I remember.
with about the PTA and so forth, and that's
Right.
what and it
Never got
didn't get resolved.
I thought he got resolved. I mean, if to me, if we are encouraging parental participation in schools, you can't not support the PTA. I mean, that's just me. I'm sorry, Ms. Williams. The chairman is out of order.
Oh,
You-
excuse me.
I'm out of order. I'm just
Oh, yeah.
voicing my opinion.
Well, I do, Board Member Allen just refreshed my memory that we did get the email last year from a parent when the flyer went home about the circus,
It was a
wasn't it?
circus, and that they were, it said free until you started reading the bottom line of what it was gonna be. Then it was like, well, now I can't take my kid because it's not free, because now down in the bottom area, it's starting to talk about charges.
Charges.
Uh-oh.
And felt like they were using the school system.
I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
All right.
But I was going to say that because of the inconsistency in the policies, if Ms. Newsom, could she meet with
I was gonna suggest.
the
that she
policy
joins.
committee to
If that's
get it?
the
Is
administration,
that-
I'm happy to do that.
As a policy committee, I'd like to request that Ms. Newsom be included on our next meeting.
It's fine.
As
And
far
I
as-
guess,
Making sure
This
that
one-
we're consistent.
But I'm in favor of Ms. Atkinson's recommendation that we approve all the policies except for this policy.
Oh, yeah, we were going to do that.
Is that
anyway.
okay?
I thought there's
two.
another there's two policies in here that.
Oh, two, right.
Yeah. I don't know
Those
the
two
numbers
policies.
out.
Ms. Hines.
Is there a way that we can get a blanket waiver for PTAs to be able to send home items? Considering that it is the first week of school and considering that we do want parental involvement and we do want our parents to know that we have active and busy and committed PTAs and to encourage joining, is there a way that we can send those materials out with the first day of school stuff, even though it's not listed in our current policy?
Well,
Based upon my understanding of your current policy as it stands, as well as the guidance that I have received from legal counsel, the short answer right now is no. Or, if you do it for PTA, you have to do it for everybody. That's my understanding of the current policy.
But the PTA, I'm sorry, but to me, the PTA is a organization that is tied to
school.
this. I mean, while it's not tied financially to the school, because they do have to have
No,
two
right.
different entities for monies, that organization works in conjunction or at the hip with the schools to promote school events.
And my understanding, having had this discussion multiple times with the citywide PTA director, is that they are their own separate organization. Hence the challenge and the
They are.
inconsistency.
Yeah, well, we know that, but still, I think Sarah's question, is it possible legally for the school board to vote on a waiver for the PTA council?
At this point.
Attorney Meekins.
is that the board's policy or is that tied to
I will
Peach Jar?
try.
Speech trees.
That's the contract.
That's, Mr. Meekins said that's the contract.
My recollection, didn't prepare for this topic. My recollection is that is the Peachtree requirement for the contract.
Okay.
But you also have an overlay of state code that was passed that said in the state code, if you allow anybody
Yes.
to distribute materials, you have to allow the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, and these patriotic societies to do it.
Right.
That's a matter of state law, whatever motivated that. So you have the overlay of who we allow. We can't allow anyone. If we do allow someone, we have to allow these people, and that's why it's gotten confused. My opinion is that this second paragraph here, the one that is allegedly not amended on policy KG, is the attempt to reflect the new state law, that if you allow anybody to distribute materials, you have to allow the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts. That's a restatement of, but what it says is if you permit the facilities or members to distribute literature, you will permit the distribution of literature by Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts.
Right.
Which is just a reflection of what the state code said.
Can I follow up with that?
Did we get you, did somebody have?
I did.
Oh,
It
I'm
was
sorry.
on a different policy. But I'll give my
You'll- you'll-
time
So-
until you.
So how is a parent who is new to said school supposed to learn about PTA open house, PTA membership, if it's not communicated through the school? Can a principal pick up, School Connect? Hey parents, just a reminder, da 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 da. Can I get a text message? Hey, remember, mark your calendar. PTA open house is this night. Where does that fall into this if I can't get a piece of paper home in my child's book bag the first day of school with PTA meeting dates and a PTA joining fee, and please send your check for $5?
I can't answer that question for you. I don't know if it was directed to me, but I will tell you that last year, I know we had a dispute with a religious organization who insisted that because we announced that there was an after-school program in classroom 3, that we had to also announce that there was a religiously held program in classroom 5, and we had to escort the children to that classroom, which we did not escort the other children to the classroom, as my recollection is. So these policies are necessarily obtuse, or they're becoming obtuse, because there are so many people trying to infiltrate this field of the education to take advantage of this captured audience. And so,
Gotta be careful.
and I haven't excluded the legislature, was doing the same thing. So it is complex, and it does need study. The question you've asked me as a legal question, I'd say, could you allow the principal to announce PTA and so forth? Yes, but you're going to probably lead to other people wanting to have their organization announced.
Dr. Whitaker?
Are we finished with this one? Or?
Have you finished?
I
don't think, we haven't resolved it. It hasn't been resolved.
Because every marquee that we're going
I
to
know.
pass for the next month is going to have
PTA open house.
PTA open house, back to school night, PTA this, PTAs are going to be sponsoring lunches, PTAs are going to be sponsoring supply drives and back to school and giveaways and yada yada. And I don't want to discourage it, because this board for the past 4 or 5 years has harped on PTA involvement in these schools. It's one of the things that Dr. Bracey took on when he got here to get everybody up, and Miss Donna Clifton will tell you the hardships that she's been through. And how I look at it as a partnership, but if it's not a true partnership, then what is it?
But
And how do we support that, and how do we expect them to support us if we can't support?
Well, Ms. Hines, there's a but to this, and it's a legal issue. And I'm in agreement with it, because, as a former principal, we sent PTA notices home and the little envelope first day of school. So now we can't do anything until Ms. Williams.
But I still think, whether they are supposed to or not, the PTA notice goes home. Because I go to the open house and all of that for my grandchildren. So they still...
Right. And I guess what happens with that, Mrs. Williams, is that
All the other organizations going to be doing it
the
too.
schools are leading that event.
Okay.
And they're asking the PTA to partner with them. They take the lead on it.
Right.
So it's not PTA driven.
Right.
It's school-based driven.
Right.
So if the school is doing it, it's acceptable, because they can send whatever they want home. They do that.
Yeah.
That's how that's been.
Yeah, that's how we did it.
Right.
Because the principal is always there at the PTA meeting, because we got to introduce our faculty and we got to do all that stuff.
Right.
It was always driven by the principal, and then the PTA president took over after that.
PTA
Somebody had their time.
PTA meetings are usually embedded in the schools meetings when they have activities or like back to school night, open house.
Yeah, it is.
So that's one creative way to get the information home. And during those meetings, they typically have a table there for parents to sign up and register for PTA.
Yeah.
There are ways that we can get around it, I think, and be within the guidelines. But I do think that the schools need some clarity around, what types of materials to send home and what not to send home.
I suspect you could clarify it through some affiliation or some concept of PTA being a school-based program rather than a public-based program.
I'm just thinking on the marquees, we're going to have PTA open house.
We have to.
Right.
We'll just
And
have
do
open
what-
house.
and do
So can it just be, so does it just turn into open house and the PTA is that?
Can you just say parent and teacher open house and leave off the association?
Well,
Parent and teacher open house Can you leave off the association?
Based on what you just said, it is a school base, it
Well, you
is a
can
school
embed it.
driven.
School-based rather
It's a
than
school base rather than a
community-based program.
community base. That's how we've always got around it,
Until last year where we had.
until
each
we
other
got
in
this
case.
incident,
Until we got
until we got,
Yeah, because I thought that was the issue with Peach
It was
Jar.
Pete, that
That's
was
why
the
we said
issue.
we were not going to continue with the contract.
when's the contract up, if I may ask?
They said it was June. They were going to
Oh,
run it
it's
through
up.
June.
Or we just resigned.
The contract came up for renewal in February, and I was directed to continue with Peach Jar. So it is currently still in place.
Until February.
So at this
No, he
point,
said
until
this-
February
this
of
transfer.
next year, because when it came up this year, the direction I received was to continue with Peach Jar.
For how many years? It's a year to
It's a
year?
yearly contract.
So this 2019 February, that's when the contract is coming up.
Yes.
Okay.
But I'd also just like to share that Peach Jar follows your policy, and Peach Jar follows the law. It's not the other way around. So the policy is ambiguous, and that is the
That's the
challenge.
problem. Okay.
So my recommendation would be to resolve the ambiguity, and then Peach Jar and I will follow whatever
Policy.
All right.
promulgate and set,
Okay,
yes.
all right. Dr. Whitaker, the other policy that you're talking about.
The policy on small purchasing, it's on the sixth one. I was just curious as to why the amount for professional services was moved from 60 to 80 without having to go out for bid.
I had nothing to do with it.
Okay.
Yeah, that was,
Was Alan?
that wasn't,
That was
we
state,
didn't move
okay.
that.
All righty, thank you.
So it's
Sarah.
Still
It's
60.
80?
It's
60?
80.
No, it's 80.
It's
It's
80.
80, okay, all right. All right. Sarah,
Moving on, we're done with small purchase?
are we done with
Okay,
that?
I don't want to be
That's the same.
jumping ship.
Right.
On the very first one where it says school board legal status, in that it has Portsmouth City School Board. City is in red, but it's underlined. Everywhere else, we're trying to take it out. So I'm just wondering if it was a misprint.
It was.
Which,
Okay. So with the very
very
first one
first
that says BB, it's
Oh.
policy BB, it says the Portsmouth City School Board, but city is in red, which usually means a delete,
It is.
but it's underlined.
Yeah.
So I was just,
It should have been a strike through.
okay, so we're moving to Portsmouth School Board done, because I mean, there's no Portsmouth County and,
Correct.
okay, I just want to make sure. So as we come through and we redo policies, if it says city, we're going to strike out.
Yes.
so all the legal documents that I've ever seen has Portsmouth City School Board, so you're telling me it's going to be Portsmouth School Board?
That's what our policy says.
Well, I mean, is this something? I'm out of order.
Sorry, I'm out of order too, because I was about to answer your question.
Ms. Williams?
Yeah. Is this something that came down from the state?
SBA.
Yeah,
Oh.
that they're changing all of them that had city?
No,
No.
sorry.
Oh,
So we were working on something else with Wells Fargo, and through that we learned that per the IRS, the division's legal name is Portsmouth School Board.
Well, then that's what we got to go with.
And it was causing discrepancy with some paperwork with Wells Fargo.
Gotcha.
So when we learned that that is our true legal name, we knew that
Portsmouth
we
School Board.
You got to go with that.
Yeah.
That's it.
Like
Go ahead.
what the chair just said about our, all of our paperwork or legal documents or whatever we have. Does it have Portsmouth City School Board?
Some do,
Yeah.
some Portsmouth Public Schools, so we'll just need to
Yeah.
update those.
They didn't get it.
Make it consistent.
And if you go to looking up the SOLs and you type in the Portsmouth City, Portsmouth, it's just got, I mean, if that's the legal name, then everything else with the state and everything else, we got to change it because that's our legal name, so.
Because if you look around, it has Chesapeake City Schools,
Yes.
Virginia Beach City. All of them have city
Right.
in there. So should it be city? Or should we change what we do with Wells Fargo? Should it be city?
Well, it's not Wells Fargo, it would be with IRS.
I mean, that's all right.
Yeah, it would be.
So that, in other words, the SBA is going to change it across the, no.
This has nothing to do with
With
VSBA.
Oh,
Yeah.
So, The IRS said that we are Portsmouth School Board.
Yes,
Can we change it with the IRS?
that is
That might be
probably an
simpler.
option.
What'd you say?
It might be simpler to change it with the IRS
Yeah.
than to change everything else, especially when all the school divisions go by city. They have
Virginia Beach
city in
City
it.
Public Schools, Chesapeake
Yeah,
City.
Chesapeake City, and I think that's to give ownership of their school system. No?
I don't want to mess with the
Again,
IRS.
I didn't prepare for this, but I can tell you that laws promulgated by the General Assembly may be different between cities, counties, and towns. And I think it is really more pertinent that it be a city, so you know which set of education, finance, funding laws you fall under, as opposed to just the Portsmouth School Board, which could be a county, it could be a town,
Yeah.
it could be whatever. So I think it's really more of a legal designation for purposes of understanding what laws apply to you.
So maybe we need to look at
Then
changing.
we need to make sure
IRS.
that we can change it with the IRS.
Because that's what we're known as, Portsmouth City.
Just leave that on the list for the new person.
So we have to
Pass that on to
do
Mr.
that
Rupp.
before you go.
Yes.
Do that before you go.
Are we finished with that particular policy? Because
Oh, Mr. Lamb, hold up.
Just,
Are you, what
Yeah, I
did we,
was-
which one?
the,
Are you on a different one?
yeah, I'm on a different one. Are you on the same one?
I just want to ask for clarification then, since we're kicking this up to the IRS to see if this can get changed, then I guess that means that that is also now another policy that needs to be tabled.
Right.
Yep.
So we're up to 3.
KG.
What's the third one?
Communication, the communication, the organization, communication organization, the organizations about security,
Same.
and
The
then
KG,
this one.
All of that's KG.
Well, the KG is the
loan policy.
Security and
the
the
security
literature.
and the literature as well.
Okay.
That's what we're-
Okay. Ms. Atkinson.
And I just want to clarify with Attorney Meekins, going back to KG, and just looking at the listing of youth organizations, and just thinking of, just to give you an example, Christian Service Brigade, Pioneer Club, Southern Baptist. If I'm a Muslim organization and I have a youth program, then I would not be able to bring my youth organization into school, but all of these organizations are Christian-based organizations. So the state is saying just to be inclusive to Christian-based organizations?
No. I say the state was exactly, I think the state really only spoke specifically to Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts.
So we are the ones that put in the patriotic organization.
I'm sorry, I can't, don't use me as an authority on that. I don't know where that term came from. I don't know the answer to that question. I just, go ahead.
This is the VSBA policy.
Okay.
The only, everything is what's been in there for, since I've been here, from VSBA. The blue is only was the new part, and that was through us.
Okay. So we could possibly like strike that.
Well, the only thing when you change your VSBA policy, if some legal actions are taken, then they do not stand behind
We
you.
go by their,
So they're putting us at
Their
risk
attorneys,
of
right.
being sued by a Muslim organization.
Can I ask you what word you're referencing?
Because if you look
My
at-
policy didn't say religious anyway.
No.
If you look at the list of youth patriotic organizations, all these organizations are Christian-based organizations.
Where's that list? Is that in the policy?
It's on KG, policy KG. So if you look at the listing, like I said, all of them are Christian-based organizations.
What did you look up?
Just youth
patriotic?
youth patriotic organizations. So
a website, right? That's not,
Cross-reference.
it's not listed.
What
on
policy?
the
I don't
It's
have
part
it.
of the cross-reference.
Okay, we're back on KG.
This is KG.
But I don't see,
Yeah, but
Yeah, but then it gives you a
pull that
cross-reference
from
here.
where?
Ms. Atkinson, did
Oh,
you do a
I was on
web search for
KG.
patriotic organization?
youth patriotic
Okay,
organizations.
so that's not attached to our policy.
Oh,
I was gonna say, I don't see that
Right, you did a website.
defined anywhere. I would say if youth patriotic organization is proved to be only Christian, it would be illegal.
Yeah.
Right.
I would not interpret it that way. I hope we would not interpret it that way, but that definition, I don't know where that definition comes from. It's not capitalized, so it's not a defined term. Typically, you would capitalize a defined term. It says designated as patriotic societies by federal law.
Right.
I don't know who the feds
Church and state. Okay.
designated as patriotic societies, and I don't know why that's there, but that's not ours.
So can we, as the policy committee, get with VSBA, and is there a list?
I mean, what's the cross-reference?
They give you a cross-reference policy. The cross-reference policy of student organizations defines student organizations, and that would be policy IGDA, so you could reference that under VSBA. And it should give you some guidance around what those student organizations are.
Okay. Thank you.
I doubt that they would.
What did you say, IG?
IGDA, if you look at the bottom of the policy, it'll give you the cross-reference,
Oh,
It's just
and it'll
giving you the
tell
call.
you
Just wait, you can get
how to
it.
get more specific information around the terms.
Okay,
gotcha.
okay.
Well, we're just sending this back to the
Pulling that one
committee.
anyway, so-
Because
Yeah.
we can be here all night dealing with this, because we need legal counsel from VSBA, and, yes,
I
ma'am.
was going through here, so at this point, we're not looking to change from Portsmouth City School Boards to Portsmouth School Board. Just want to make sure that I'm clear.
We're trying to see if we can make that change to the IRS.
She's got to follow
And
that.
not change it.
We're not changing it. She's going to follow, or hopefully she will do it before she, because it's going to take, well, it's going to take, it's not going to take a day. I mean,
Well, the
it's gonna-
reason why I'm asking, there's several
Get the
policies
paperwork
where
in.
there's a reflection in different
Right.
names. So at this point, there's several policies that we can't even vote on tonight because there's a change. It says over here Portsmouth City and it says over here Portsmouth School.
And we need to be consistent that it's Portsmouth City Public Schools throughout all of our policies.
Correct.
I mean, I would recommend just subsequently just not making that change. I don't think you all should hold up.
Right,
with
we could
this.
still vote on
You can still vote.
this
Yeah.
and keep it Portsmouth City School, and they would make the, because that's not really a policy thing,
Yeah.
that's just a name, that they could make the correct changes to reflect what we are.
Like right here, it's got.
Yeah,
What does the
that make
charter
sense?
say we are?
It's got-
I haven't seen a charter.
I looked at it
was-
once, and I thought it was the Portsmouth City Schools, but I haven't looked at it in relation to
It
the
has always been.
Everything I've
charter.
seen
The
says
charter
Portsmouth
is
City.
named, we don't name ourselves, the charter name.
I have always seen Portsmouth City
Yeah, that's all I've
Public
seen.
Schools. I've always seen that.
So then would we be out of order if we voted on a policy that says something other than what our chartered name is?
I think it would be improper,
Would be improper or proper?
improper.
Improper.
So
I think we are what we are.
it goes back to what I just said, anything that reflects as Portsmouth public schools without the city, we can't vote on. Is that what you're saying, Counselor?
What I'm saying to you really is if you take a legal stance, my law firm is Wolcott Rivers, but we trade as Wolcott Rivers Gates. Portsmouth City Public Schools, official name should be the Portsmouth City Public Schools, but they could do business as the Portsmouth Public Schools. But it would not change their legal name, it's the Portsmouth City Public
Because
Schools.
down at the bottom, VSBA's got Portsmouth Public
As
Schools.
long as that's not misleading to the public, you can do that. If it's misleading to the public, then you can't do that. But so I'm not sure, all this would say to me as a policy, our policy is we're gonna generally identify ourselves as the Portsmouth Public Schools, but our real legal name is the Portsmouth City Public Schools.
That's right.
Because you can't change, I don't think by enacting a policy, you can change your legal name.
That's what the IRS would. Unless you file. And that's what we're asking you to do, is to file it. Do I hear the board? We're going to ask her to file to Portsmouth City Public Schools?
No.
Let's find out what the charter says.
That's
Well,
what the
if that's
charter
what the
says.
charter says, that's what it
That's
should
what
be.
it's gotta
I
be.
guess.
So,
Yes, sir, you're looking at me with
yeah, not to,
something questioned.
well, not to belittle and so forth. I mean, I'm understanding the legal and the identification and the
Right.
IRS stuff. But what I think Ms. Allen is saying, if I understand correctly, that all of these policies in here, we're striking out the word city at this point.
Or we're-
So do we really want to vote on striking out the word city.
Well, you can all,
No, not if we
think
sat here and talked all this time about that.
Exactly.
I don't think we would.
Which
Just
then
wait.
means, which means.
I think
Ms.
we can
Allen-
approve it based on we making these changes. Just as Dr., Mr.
What
Meekins.
Mr. Meekin said, we could still.
Yeah, I know,
Right.
he said
We can still move, we can still approve the policy, and then once the IRS, once we officially get
And then-
paperwork from the IRS,
And then
then,
we will get these policies back for us again to then add the word city back in?
right, then you just do word replacement and replace,
Okay.
No, I think y'all talking about two different things.
Mr. Chairman?
yes.
I think Mr. Meekins will correct me if I'm wrong on a point of order, but I think if it's a typographical change like that with just a word city or being in or not, you can change that with a Scrivener's amendment, which doesn't require action, I wouldn't think. It's just a correction made to a typographical error.
Okay.
I don't know that for sure. I'm not an expert on Robert's rules or policy passing or anything, but I think a Scrivener's amendment would affect.
Scrivener's error rule applies if we know what the intent of the board is. If we know the intent of the board, then we can make the motion or the ordinance or the policy match the intent of the board if there's a Scrivener's error in recording what was the intent of the board. If it was the intent of the board to keep the name city, the word city in the name, and that somehow it was deleted, we could put it in.
Put it back in.
But we've got, what we end up with has got to match what we want to do.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing from the board that it is the board's intent that we become, that we are Portsmouth City Public Schools. Is that not what I'm hearing from this board?
That's what
Then
you
we
heard
will-
from me.
Then that's what we're going to move forward.
Yeah.
And then Storch will initiate the paperwork
Your question is.
and move forward. And then when it's approved, then we can go back, Mr. Lamb, and go back and make the correction to the policy.
I'm good
But
with
their question is, do we vote on it tonight or do we wait? What is the?
and that's what Mr. Meekins.
Mr. Meek.
You asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we vote on it tonight
Can we,
or do we
can we
wait?
vote on these policies without the city?
All of the policies?
Right.
Your
Except the
concern
ones we asked
is,
to
make
pull
sure I
out.
understand, make sure I understand the concern, I'm sorry. Your concern is that if we enact the policy that eliminates city from the name, we will then we will be okay. But if we don't enact a policy that eliminates city from the name, we will have enacted other policies that don't have the name city, and they should have the name city.
Right.
So why would we enact a policy to delete city in the first place? Why don't we pull that policy?
Right.
I think that's what I was saying.
That's what
You were on point.
Yeah, I would pull that policy, and I would pull the one that we've discussed about
Just pull it out.
HG, KG, I'm sorry.
and BB.
KG and BB?
Yeah, that's the two I have, KG and BB.
All right.
It's called blood pressure.
So you vote
Sal.
on everything else.
Will you sum up the policies that we're going to vote on? Or would you sum up?
You voting on all of them,
We're
but
going to vote
KG
on all of
and
them.
Except for KG and BB.
And the other two.
What other two?
Y'all were working with the part-time job?
Those were the only ones.
So BB and KG, we're not voting on. Is that correct?
Right.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yes, that the motion be amended to exclude those two policies.
Okay.
I move to vote on the policies except for the two that we have discussed for removal,
BB and KG.
BB and KG tonight, but I motion that everything but BB and KG be voted upon tonight.
All right. There's a motion and the second. Any discussion? No. Please, you've discussed it all night. You're going to raise your hand after? Okay, go
It
ahead.
can wait till after because I would like to ask for clarity, that's all.
Clarity.
Not about what we're voting on.
Oh,
Not about what we're voting on. I'm going back to the PTA.
Madam
bit.
Clerk,
Miss
would you
Allen.
please?
Miss Allen.
Yes.
Miss Atkinson.
Yes.
Mrs. Hines.
Yes.
Mr. Lamb,
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Parent.
Yes,
It's unanimous.
thank you very much.
And Mr. Chair,
Now,
I would like to know if there is a, hate to use the word waiver, but when we talk about PTAs and partnerships,
oh, we're back to PTP.
can we get Mr. Meekins to look if there is an exemption to PTAs, if there's a waiver to PTAs, if there's a way that we can make sure that we support PTAs as best as we can at this board.
I thought we said maybe, I thought if it's school-driven, then we were fine. And
If it's
Mr.
school-led-
Meekins?
Can we get Mr. Meekins to do what?
Mr. Meekins,
Just,
if the
I'm looking
PTA
at the charter right now.
is the PTA, if the PTA is driven by the school, then we can send out whatever, as the principal of school, I can send out anything regarding PTA. If I'm working with my PTA president, we're sending it out to all the parents. That's the way we've always done it,
And
until Pete started.
I understand that completely, and I would say to you that probably that's the way all schools operate. The only reservation I would offer to this board is A, Ms. Atkinson is correct, if you do it for the school, for the PTA, you may be forced into a position for doing it for anybody who is a legitimate organization. The way to try to circumvent that is to make your policy reflect that you are doing it for school-based organizations only.
Right.
And I don't think our policy reflects that now. The second issue would be that you're never going to be able to exclude, under state law, Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts.
No.
And I don't know, the third issue is, I'm not sure how any of this would impact our contract with Peach Jar. Peach Jar. I'm not sure what the prohibitions under that contract are, but I feel pretty comfortable they're not going to challenge you on it.
Yeah, you're gonna take it back to your committee, it's gonna be school-based, school-based, all right. All right,
Does that answer your question?
Does that answer your question?
Sarah,
I
that
think
you
for
had
now,
to-
yes. I just want to make sure that we're covered and that the partnership that we've worked hard to create and the organizations and the PTA that has worked hard to have those groups and those parental advocacies and feel welcome and know that we're with them. I mean, I just don't want it to be for naught.
That's good.
There's one policy, and I've already got it clarified, the LEB, which is Advanced Tentative Course, and that's what says Advanced Alternative Courses for Credit. If you look under LEB,
The last one.
it says such opportunities include access to at least 3 advanced placement, AP, international baccalaureate, which we do not have,
Right.
or Cambridge, which we do not have. But Dr. Nguyen basically said they put it in there in case at some point.
Is he redacting?
But the bottom line is that we do not, I mean, there's a process you got to go through IB, and we don't, I mean, it's in our policy, but we're including it, I guess, in case. Is that what you said?
We might be eliminating this. It looks like this should be a strike-through. Was that a strike-through?
No.
It was not? Okay. Well, we can,
Up in.
We don't offer either one of
we
them,
don't
so it
offer
should not be in our
International
policy.
Baccalaureate or Cambridge.
That's correct.
And
So
we might need to
delete that.
revisit that policy because if we put it in here and we don't offer it, we might have to offer it.
That's correct.
So I'm thinking this was a strike-through because I remember talking to Dr. Marty. I thought we took that out.
Okay.
I think that was a strike-through.
You gotta retake back your original, and we gotta.
I'm pretty sure it was.
I have my notes downstairs so I can look.
Yeah, he'll be here tomorrow, so we just
Okay.
talk. Pretty sure that's a strike-through.
And Miss, you're going to have to
Yeah.
amend, and then now it's going to be, I'm sorry, I should have brought it up at the time, but I just picked it up. The
So you want me
policy
to retake my motion?
I withdraw my second and then you
Yes.
do another one.
Now,
Okay.
and include LEB.
Right.
All right, so I'm doing BB, KG,
And LEB.
and LEB.
Correct.
All right, I withdraw my motion.
I withdraw my
It's
second.
already been voted on.
It's already been
Sir,
Been voted on.
Yes.
we've already voted on it.
I make a motion to revisit.
But this policy, in other words, I should have brought it up, and I'm sorry I didn't, but we do not, this policy says that we offer International Baccalaureate in Cambridge. We do not.
Well, we can withdraw that policy and revote on that
I'm
one.
just questioning, it says such opportunities include access to at least 3 advanced placement, which we do
that.
offer.
We do.
Inter IB or Cambridge
We don't do
or
that.
3. So doesn't
I think
or
they're
give it to-
alternatives, not requirements.
Huh?
I read those as alternatives, not requirements,
That's what I was,
because
the
of
or.
Right.
because of the or. The or word is
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
So you're
Doesn't
telling
say
me we're
and.
okay?
We're
and
okay.
it just says
And
if you
or.
were to offer it, that would be one of the options you could offer.
Right.
All right.
The or was what did it for me.
Forget it.
Right.
Well, I can't redact it anyway because it's already been voted on, so it's moot. Right? My redaction is
Then you
moot,
could make a motion to
but I
amend
didn't.
that ordinance or that policy, but I really don't think you need to.
All right.
That's it.
What a night. I was going to get y'all out of here at 6:30 today. That just went through the, thank you, Miss Allen. I appreciate all your hard work.
Guess I'm gonna need Reverend Fleming to be here.
He knew you was gonna get there.
That's why school boards have to approve policy.
Yep.
All right, we're ready to move on to board members' reports. Any of you have any reports? I'm so glad. No, I'm not. I do want to say before I adjourn the meeting, that this is Brittany's last meeting with us.
Thank you.
And we want to wish her great success in Hampton City Public Schools. And that, you're always welcome.
Come back.
Come back.
All right, come back.
Get over there, they don't treat you right, just come on back home. Okay?
That's sweet.
We're gonna miss you.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't want to trump on Brittany's
Oh,
parade.
that's right, because you're in Hampton.
Yes, yep, so we'll be on the bridge together in the mornings. But no, what I was gonna say is, I've already shed my tear with Brittany, so it's not that I'm not sad to see her go, but we had our conversation earlier, but I did want to, you said reports, not questions, and so I just do have one question.
That's fine.
Have parents been notified of when open house is? I mean, generally, open house is typically that Friday before Labor Day for their kids to go in and meet their teacher and bring in the 2 grocery bags of school supplies that are on the list. And has that gone out yet? Because I've had a couple of questions, and I just want to make sure it's resolved at this point. Everybody pretty much knows it's that Friday.
You just had your leadership meeting.
Yeah, that's going out. Yeah, because I even.
Okay.
I'm sending
You
principals
send it.
another email as we speak. to
Okay,
make sure.
I just want to make sure
Yeah, I
that
thought
that's
that
communicated,
Yeah.
because some people have to get off work and move schedules around, and,
And I'm sure some will probably be seeing it on the marquees.
okay.
I just want to touch on something from retreat in
Sure.
regards to the ID system, where we are with that. That seemed to be.
The rap tour.
Yeah. I don't know
That's starting
what's up.
September?
September, October timeframe.
Rap
Right,
tour.
right.
Were you guys able to get rectified the questions that the board had during the retreat in regards to we had a multitude of questions at the retreat in regards to that. And we haven't heard back yet. This, of course, is our first meeting since the retreat in regards to that.
We haven't. I was out last week, and the first 2 days of this week, we had our Leadership Institute. So that's something that we'll be working on to get in place.
Atkinson?
And to piggyback on Ms. Board Member Allen, are we going to be instituting that for our athletic events as well?
Gosh, how in the world would you
Thank
do
you.
that?
I think it is for the athletic
No.
events. We never, no.
That would be, they'd never get in. They'd be there all night long.
Right.
Waiting in line, yeah, you would.
Just during, all our discussion was always
School hours.
During school hours.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Because I haven't seen that done at any
No.
extracurricular after-school activities, sports athletics. I hadn't seen that. That was never in our plans.
Okay. Ms. Williams?
Where are we with our vacancies for teachers?
Oh, yes, Mr.
Have we
Sure.
been able to fill
I was
most
just
of them?
pressing shut down, so you caught me just in time.
Oh, okay.
Last email you sent out to Mr. Lamb or somebody
Yeah.
was 46.
46.
46. Unfortunately, we had a couple of staff members fall ill in the last week, so they have also long-term illnesses, so they've resigned. So we are at 49 as of today, 34 at the elementary level, 4 at the middle school level, and 10 at the high school level. Churchland Middle School, Adult Ed, and New Direction Center are all fully staffed. Olive Branch and Churchland Middle School are fully staffed, and we're going to probably need to move a teacher from Churchland to Mount Herman, so that means all the preschools will be fully staffed. And as of this morning, we needed 10 bus drivers. We have all of our school security officers, we have all of our nurses, and we need 1 library media specialist.
Now, this is a procedural question because, not a board, because bottom line is that when school starts in September and you say you still have 49 vacancies, is it I'm the principal, is it my responsibility to obtain the substitute, or is it your responsibility to help the principals to get a substitute?
We help the principals at every step of the procedure and process, so if there's a vacancy that remains, we will help them secure a long-term sub and have subs that have worked for us in the past that are good and would be put in there. Most of the principals already know kind of what long-term subs that they want. I'm also working on a plan to make sure that students have access to a certified teacher, even if we're still short-staffed. I need to get that approved, so I'm not ready to present that yet, but it's kind of an out-of-the-box plan where a certified teacher would get an extra duty supplement, even at the elementary level, and so all of those students would be taught at least part of the day by a certified teacher. It's not quite ready to share publicly yet, but I am working on an out-of-the-box plan to make sure that all of our students have access to a certified teacher as part of their school day.
Okay. And do are the principals or you looking at our retirees? Because I know they want to rest, but if they get to come back, they get to come back in those areas, they get their VRS benefit, but then they also get their whatever the...
Yes, we reach out to them as when they leave, we invite them to come back as substitutes, and now this time of year is when we would do those more personal invitations. We do have a job fair tomorrow, an interview fair in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. Some may consider it dirty pool, but we pay more than North Carolina districts do, and so we're going down there to try to get some certified teachers up here. So we hope to be able to get some there.
Game is played.
We used to go to Pennsylvania, get a lot of teachers from Pennsylvania. Do we still do?
Oh, yes. We go all over the eastern seaboard, the mid-Atlantic. We go as far west as, I think this year we're going as far west as Arizona.
Wow.
Any place where I see or my staff sees that there is problems with teachers, they're disgruntled and they're not being paid enough, we try to target job fairs in those areas.
Wow, that's great.
We also are still offering through grant money the moving allowance of $1,000.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say.
We will allow people to take up to $1,000 pay advance that they can pay back over their first 3 months of employment. We have rent discounts with 3 apartment complexes in town here, so we're trying to do everything we can to entice people.
Sounds like that's a great idea. Thank you.
Follow up on the rent discount. Is that available to teachers that have been with us?
Yeah, it's available to all employees.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
And I did 2 interviews this week, Channel 10, which will interview, I think, next week unless they moved it up, and Channel 13, which interviewed at 4:30 and 5:30 today, which aired at 4:30 and 5:30 today.
Good. All right, board members. Yep. Ms. Allen? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say, now the bus drivers, 10 vacancies, is that normal, or is it high or low for this?
10 seems to be about what we run
10 vacancies.
year-round. We did just graduate a class, Mr. Whiting will help me out, of 4, but they need to get to DMV and take their test, right? So they've done all of their training. DMV testers are backed up by several months, and so it's hard for us to get them on the schedule. So the alternative is Norfolk Public Schools has a tester. We try to partner with them, but they're trying to get all their bus drivers on the street as well. And we're working on getting our staff recertified to be a behind-the-wheel tester, and then that way we can do everything in-house.
School starts, and the bus driver that picks up my children. So you're going to notify that community that in other words, you're going to run a bus late to pick up my child. Is that how that works?
Well, we're hoping not to run. Mr. Whiting can
In the event
speak to that a little bit.
in the event that first day of school you've got 10 vacancies, how are we going to make sure parents know that somebody's got to pick the kids up?
Well,
I got to have my regular run.
We have a full launch of Here Comes the Bus, getting ready to go out. And also, I think we can absorb 10.
The Here Comes the Bus is a program that'll inform the parents about what time the bus is getting there.
Right.
So they don't have to, they don't have to have a child staying out
Good.
any length of time. And so there's an algorithm that goes through, and it gives them the approximate time the bus is going to be there. As far as the coverage on the buses, we moved around one school, Douglas Park, to a different tier, and we think that's going to sort of clear up. We're still working. We're rerouting again because we were done with the routing, but we're rerouting it, and we think that's going to clear up some of the vacancies, and so we should have everything covered and on time.
Good. Now, we do have at least I thought we did, a GPS that app that I can get on my phone.
Here Comes the Bus.
That's Here Comes the Bus.
Yes, sir.
All right.
How do parents get notified? How do parents get
That's
on the
where I was
list?
going.
No. How do parents get
For what bus?
for the bus? Do they have to sign up for it, or are they automatically?
It's an app?
It's an app.
What's the name of that?
Here Comes the Bus.
Oh,
That's what I'm saying.
do the parents know that?
Well, that's what I'm asking. So, I mean, we can have the app all day long, but if I ain't got it, I ain't getting nothing, and my kid's still standing out in the rain.
How do the parents get the app? That's the question.
They can just download it off on their phone.
No, I mean, how do you notify the
parents? We are actually, as we speak, and once we finish the routes and those kind of things, that information's all going to go out at the same time.
So
Is
I'm
that
looking
on
at
Connected,
Sharice.
Say again.
Connected.
To the
Yes.
the phone?
When I receive the information, I am happy to send that out. In the spring, if you recall, we did do a trial run with 4 schools. So some parents are already aware of it. We also have the website. And I apologize, I sent an email to the board earlier. I don't think it went through, but I also share information about open house, the transportation schedules that are coming. So I'll just need to find out why you all didn't receive that, but a lot of the information was in there.
Okay.
I didn't get it, but
And also, I do know that it used to be in the Carrots, the bus.
they did. We paid.
The bus
They
schedule.
don't print them anymore.
They
They don't
do it anymore.
The paper doesn't print them anymore because they're all online.
Bridges doesn't do it.
Yeah.
All right. Do we? Oh,
I'm sorry.
No.
When you just said
We'll be here all night.
Can
Ma'am,
we
go
not
ahead.
take out add an occurrence with the bus routes on there or something?
He said they don't do that.
But-
anymore.
Well, I mean, but
they don't, but we
they don't,
can.
but we can pay for something to be put in the paper that would identify that for those who may not.
Right, everybody doesn't have
I
the
mean, yes, we
phone.
could. It would take several full-page ads in order to,
Really?
yes, yeah, it would take several full-page ads because you got to figure you're listing every street in Portsmouth multiple times, elementary, high school, and middle school. We haven't printed them since I've been here, and we haven't had complaints about that. You can go to the Portsmouth Public Schools website, put in your address, and it will give you your stop information.
Could we not do something along the lines of, just as a component to what Sharice is already doing, maybe an add an occurrence the week before school or whatever, follow us here for this, just as an extra added, because I know
People
Sunday
didn't get
paper is
it.
the paper that everybody gets.
Sure.
So if it's something in the currents that just says, hey, for bus schedules, download the app. That's another way for people to know, download that app for your bus schedules. Open houses, keep an eye out for marquees, or go to the Portsmouth Public Schools. Just another extra added something to make the public aware of the various moving parts prior to the start of school.
Sure. That's a great idea, and I will defer to Ms. Newsom on how best to get that word out.
I am happy to do that and assist. And again, when I receive information, I will do that. We do have a series of strategies that we use to get the word out. And once the information is available, we will enact those strategies. And when the budget becomes available, because it does cost money.
Gotcha.
And I also know too that at several of the schools, they take their bus list and their bus numbers and give them out to the students, and they give them out to the
And they make
parents
the
as they come in, so that way, I mean, but you have to be there to get that, I understand that, but I know
I'll get the
that
paper on Sunday.
that's one of the things that I know that schools do to help alleviate and help out too.
Well, I know with kindergarten and 4-year-olds and first graders, the teachers make a little thing that they wear around the neck, bus 14, so when they go out to get on, they know that Floyd's going to get on bus 14.
Yep.
We still do that, I hope.
But going back to what Ms. Allen
Yes.
said, it's never, to me, too bad to put out too much
Oh,
information.
no, I agree with you.
So,
I think Therese said
but
that
we're
she
all
doesn't.
sitting here talking and no one is acting like they're interested in following through with whatever we said. And Ms. Newsom has made it very clear that she will enact it if someone tells her and gives her a budget. So therefore, it must go back to our superintendent if we want to get this done.
We want to get it done.
Yeah. If the board, if it's
Does
the
the board
board's
wanna do
pleasure,
this?
that we do something in the currents so the people will know where to look
Call
or
Bridges.
whatever. Oh, I know, it's Bridges
I
now,
don't
not
like that,
Karens, yeah.
Bridges.
Yeah.
So the board, we're all in agreement that we're going to, Dr. Bracy's going to find money, we're going to put.
Oh, yeah, we can do an
Just
ad.
approve the budget.
You say I got 5 on it.
Do it.
So we got 5.
I got
All
5
right.
on it.
We don't have to vote on it. Just tell Dr. Bracy we're going to do it. Ms. Newsom, there you go. You got the authority.
Yeah, so once we get it, we'll make sure we get that out.
One last thing.
Oh,
and
that's all right, babe, that's all right.
Okay, he said, all right, babe.
I mean, come on.
His music comes on, then he's like, all right, babe.
I may start the music anyway, come on.
Like a snack tonight. From the retreat, this is one other thing, a follow-up from the retreat, the
Yes, ma'am.
PBIS report.
Yes. What about it?
Well, Dr. Sanderlin had kind of said that there were some concerns about,
He took care of
Oh,
it.
right.
okay, I just wanted to make sure
We
that,
had a meeting yesterday with the administrators. All schools were represented at that initial meeting. So, yeah.
And they know that we don't want to hear that report again next year,
So
that they were not
that they were not, oh, absolutely.
cooperating.
Well, it's so
Absolutely.
funny because on my Twitter account, bing, bing, this morning it went bing, bing, bing. It was going crazy. Every one of the principals were tweeting that they were doing it, I guess, so that to make sure that the chairman and everybody else knew that they were on board, because we asked him to make sure that this was across the board.
that's it for me.
All right,
One last,
sir,
I'll close out with.
You gonna close out with
some good
something?
news. Yes, sir.
go ahead.
Just wanted to share with the board we were approved for another 21st Century Learning Centers grant.
All right.
This one for Douglas Park.
How much is that?
163.
How much is it?
163.
Oh, great.
163,000.
That is great.
And it'll serve 30 students, I think we said.
All right, board members.
Can I reference one thing?
Oh, come
We
on.
were amending policy BB. Policy AA says that supervision of schools in Portsmouth School Division is vested in Portsmouth City School Board.
Okay, so
There
that,
you go.
Took me a while, but
That's why we have an
that's where
attorney.
he's been working, thank you. Still Portsmouth City School.
Portsmouth City.
All right, board members. Ms. Allen?
I'm
one more.
finished.
Everybody?
I can think of something
All
else
right,
if you
do I
want
have
me
a
to.
motion to adjourn this
Move
meeting?
for adjournment.
Motion been made and second. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.